Hi, hello, I'm Ariam, and this is being filmed on May 31st. So the next part of the vlog that you'll see, it opens at the end of April, and this was originally supposed to be a vlog to end out my Orilium reading, but then I started reading really slowly, and a bunch of things just happened, and basically, anyways, this is also the end of my Orilium reading, and also all of the books that I made for myself to read in May. So that's this vlog. Hope you enjoy. Hello, it is May 4th, and I am 94 paid, and I am doing my Orilium vlog for week 5. So Orilium is a readathon by Book Roast on YouTube, where you have a character who goes to a magical school, and they get a degree. It's basically magical university, and so there are 2 semesters every year, one in April and one in September. And your character has classes that they have to do, and every class has a prompt. Now, you may be wondering, why am I talking about it on May 4th when it happens in April? And that is because I have 2 characters who, between them, have 3 degrees, and I am never able to finish my character's degrees, my character's prompts during April. So I always continue it a little bit afterwards. So this is week 5, and I am reading Passage West by Rishi Reddy. I'm at page 94 currently. And I basically started it today. I read like the first page last week and the list of characters. I basically started it today. So this book is historical fiction that happens, it starts in 1914, and it follows a guy who immigrates from India to the west coast of America. And particularly what it is, where they get so into the bits of the historical fiction that they forget about the characters' emotions. Like, I also don't love that it kind of keeps on switching from our main character's Poofy. Suddenly we'll have like someone else's another character is around in Poofy. I don't think it's actually adding to the story in any real way. But I was enjoying it a lot in the beginning, where we were really getting our main character, Rom's, feelings for what was happening, even though it wasn't revealing like everything that was happening. And now, suddenly they revealed everything that happened to Rom, and they're like, and here's the historical fiction part. Now, I do find the historical fiction part extremely interesting. It's something that I have never heard of at all. In general, the west coast of America, the stuff that was happening there, I haven't really heard except for the gold rush and the Chinese immigrants. So this is something that I haven't heard of at all, really. But it does feel like suddenly it went from, here's our main character Rom, and here's how he's experienced things and what happened to him, to, and this is a historical fiction. And it's like, I took extra history notes. I like history. However, reasons I like history other than watching horrible histories of Cicely as a kid. Even before that, I liked history because I read a lot of good historical fiction as a child. I read American Girl. I read the books by Avi. And yes, it was also because I read books that were genuinely historical, like Anna Green Gables, A Little Princess, Ian Nesbitt's books. But I just feel that there's something in historical fiction books for children that adult books are missing. That the things that Avi or Sarah Avi's books, or Sarah Plain Natal, or American Girl books can get across, of giving us the historical time period and even the important things that were happening in that time period, while not making it feel like a textbook. Because right now, this book, in like the last 10 to 15 pages, it's been feeling like a textbook. And it's something that I've noticed happens a lot in adult historical fiction, which is why it's so hard for me to find adult historical fiction that not only do I end up liking, but I don't DNF. And I really hope that I don't DNF this one, but I do not have a good feeling about it. So there's that. Yeah. Been a while. It's May 10th. So Update and Passage West by Rishi Reddy. The next day after I updated you, I read 2 pages and then I DNF'd it. Like, I read nearly 100 pages. I wasn't enjoying it. Why did I think it was going to get better? Especially since it had gotten worse since the beginning of the book, which is I really wanted to like the book, but I'm not gonna like it, so why bother to read it? Then I didn't read anything because, well, I read fan fiction, but I didn't read any real books because any published novels that are not fan fiction because the telephone company decided that I had too much activity on the Amazon account because I take books out of the library through the Amazon account and download them to the Kindle. Apparently I read too much. Great. So I read a little bit of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell during the week, and I read a bunch today on Shabbos. Now I'm up to page 904. So I have 102 pages left in this book. And actually, if you may remember, I've been reading this for a few weeks now, but when I first started reading it, I was a little nervous at how slow it was. I really was like, where is this going? When is it going to get somewhere? And while I do think this probably could have been a duology, I'm not mad about it. So far, again, I still have 102 pages left, so I might change my mind in the next 102 pages, but I do feel that this is like how long the book needed to be. Like I said, this is not really a plot-driven book or a character-driven book. It's a book about the history of the people. And so it's just kind of, so to understand and the history of the revival of English magic, obviously it's fake, there's no such thing, but to understand the history, you really have to understand everything that was going on. And honestly, at this point by the end, it is starting to become more character driven, not as in the characters are changing, they're still the same people. Well, Jonathan Strange has changed and Mr. Norrell hasn't. But as in what is now happening in this book would not have happened if Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell were not the people they are. The fact of the personalities of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell have led to the events in this book, which we got hints of on page 153. So yeah, I do like, so like now I really understand why we had to read so much stuff that seemed maybe less relevant to get to where we are now. And I'm really enjoying the atmosphere in these last, 50 pages maybe. It's turned gothic, full of horror, gothicness, like dark corridors, shifting landscapes, bareness, rain, candlelit rooms that don't really light up everything, and I am loving the atmosphere in here. It is so fun. It's actually making me long for winter, even though I'm really glad it's summer and I want it to stay summer for right now. It is making me kind of long for winter. So I'm really enjoying it right now, and I do understand why it got so popular. So actually, I also don't understand why it got so popular. Like, fantasy generally does not get very popular, and this is not the kind of fantasy that generally does get popular when fantasy does get popular. So, like, I don't understand how it got translated into 21 languages. You know what? I'm enjoying it. I like it. So that's fun. Anyways, that is all for now. I'm probably not going to stop the vlog at this point because that is 2 tiny clips. So I'll probably continue it, hopefully, with God's help, into the next few weeks. Hello, people. It is the evening of May 13th, and I have started a new book, which honestly sounds very scary to say. I was so nervous about starting a new book because of DNFing 2 books in the same day. One of them was, what was it called? I can't even remember anymore. It was the book by Rishi Reddy that I DNF'd in this video, and there was also a different one that I DNF'd in the same day that did not appear in this video. But and did in fact DNF both of them in the same day. And then, as I said, I was not able to access the books I actually took out from the library and download them to my Kindle app, and then I just got super, super nervous. But I finished reading my super long reread of fan fiction, and I don't really have any other super long fan fictions I want to reread, so I was like, I'm gonna get to it, and I'm gonna get a new book. So what I was supposed to read was The Apple Tree by Permi Muhammad for Elemental Studies for my other character. So I DNF'd whatever that book was called by Rishi Reddy for Estella, and then I still had Elemental Studies left as his last class for my other character, Ori. By the way, the course focus is Earth Fruits. Now, those were the only 2 books I had on my TBR that had fruit on the cover, but the only reason I added The Apple Tree Throne was because I love The Butcher of the Forest, and I saw that, and the library was like, this is an author you liked before, by the way, this is a new book coming out by her. I was like, okay, great, adding them. And then I read the actual summary, and I was like, this is just not for me right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the thing that lets you switch out the prompt, and I'm going to take the prompt, I don't remember what class it was for, Conjuration maybe? I don't know, I'm not sure. No, not Conjuration. I don't know what class it was for. Maybe it was Conjuration. Anyways, but it was read a book that you were already had to read this month, or you already planned to read this month. So obviously, I read all the books that I wanted to read in April, but I do have books I want to read in May that I hadn't gotten to, including one of the Buzzwordathon books, which is The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. So the Buzzwordathon prompt was the word to, as in to-T-O, or to-T-O-O. Obviously, To Train to Impossible Places is to-T-O. And I'm 87 pages into it, I believe. I'm at chapter 5. That's where I stopped, because we kind of like got to a new part in the story. And also because I wanted to eat. But this is a middle grade fantasy. It's the first in the series. And unfortunately, the library only has the first one. But I really wanted to read it anyways. This is about a girl who gets on this magical train that goes to all kinds of magical places. And so far, but I am really liking it. First of all, one of the things about this book, which I didn't know before going into it, is it's kind of about teaching physics to kids, but it's in a fun way. It's not even fun like Horrible Histories or Awful Sciences or whatever those are called are fun, because it's not telling you it's going to teach it to you, but it is teaching it. So our main character, Susie Smith, loves physics, and The Train to Impossible Places keeps on breaking physics, and she kind of but we'll get these little things where she tells us physics rules, but it's as part of the plot. She's on the train and it's going straight down a building, and then it has to it's going straight down, and then it has to straighten out onto the desert, and it's going super, super, super fast. And she's thinking, oh my god, velocity equals mass times momentum, which basically means the faster you're going, then the faster the object is going, and the bigger it is, the harder it is for you to stop. And then obviously the train has a little bit of troll ingenuity, and some magic makes it obviously not crash. But I just thought it's so fun. It kind of reminds me of Unfortunate Series of Events, where Lemony Snicket teaches kids new vocabulary. It's not like it's hidden. It's not like it's muffins with secret carrots in it. It is telling you on the tin. Well, it's not telling you on the tin. It's not exactly carrot cake either, because that would be more like Horrible Histories. This is delicious, but we are telling you that you're going to learn. But it's not hidden either. It's it's like carrot cake. Maybe Horrible Histories is if you like carrots. I personally do not like carrots, but something healthy that you like. Obviously, I'm not saying that, whatever. And then this is like carrot cake. You know that they're trying to teach you stuff, but it is doing it in a fun way. Anyways, another thing I really enjoyed about this book is Well, first of all, that it has illustrations, but secondly, I really like that they introduce the big bad quickly. They do this they very much generally introduce the big bad in kids' books quickly, and I like that. That's something I miss so much in adult books. Even like in Mercedes LeKay books, she's one of my favorite authors, but it takes forever for her to introduce the big bad. Like her specifically also, it takes forever. And I just like my big bad to be introduced quickly. I want to know who the big bad is. And then I don't know, I just like knowing who the big bad is quickly. So this one did introduce her in the first 50 pages, and I love it. She is so horrible. And this book is just like a classic fantasy middle grade. I really hope I continue to enjoy it, because I'm getting excited about this, and I was already nervous to begin this, and now I'm even more nervous because now I'm excited about it. But I am enjoying it right now. Anyways, I am going to go watch BookTube and then go to bed, I think. Hopefully. See you. Okay, it is May 16th, and I had a migraine, which is why I didn't update you, because I have read more of The Train to Impossible Places. And I love it. I'm now 99 pages from the end. I'm still super, super enjoying it. Hopefully nothing happens in those 99 pages to ruin it. The only complaint I have is that our main character, Susie Smith, is mixed race, and it specifically describes her skin as being brown, and on the cover it is not brown. Now, I did look at the next covers in the series, and her skin does get browner, it's kind of odd. Like, her skin gets slightly browner every cover, which is good. However, on the second cover of the second book, her troll friends, let's take his glasses off. Her troll friend is green. They're described specifically as kind of pale tan. Why is he green? Who is the illustrator for the covers? Or the colorer for the covers? No. One thing I've really liked, like now I'm 99 pages from the end, so obviously everything is going towards the epic beating of the good guys and the bad guys and the great reveal and everything, but throughout this book, from the very beginning, everything that has happened has been connected to the plot. One thing that I've noticed that happens a lot in middle grade books that I do not like at all is that the characters will go on this detour and it won't be connected to the plot at all. It'll just be like, it will end up not being connected to the plot. It'll be like a red herring. I do not like it at all. I want my book. I'm a character-driven person, but I want my books to have the plot go straight. Point A to point B. Or point A to point B that connects to point C. No point A, oh point A1, oh back to point A, point B. Okay? I'd like it to be straight, and that is exactly what happened in this book, and I'm so glad, especially because I was really nervous when I read the summary for this book. It said like that it didn't say much about the plot at all. It just said that it's the train that goes to all these kind of magical places, and I was really nervous that it was just going to be like no real plot, but it does have a real plot, and everything connects to the real plot, and that is amazing. I'm super glad, and I like it. And I've also decided that this reading vlog is going to be the reading vlog for everything that I read until I finish A Monster of Ellenhaven that is connected to some sort of reading challenge that is not a reading challenge that I created. For myself, if that makes sense. So because the Train to Impossible Places is also the Orilium Medical Readathon, and it's also Buzzwordathon, so why not? So I finished the whole book for The Adventure in Aeldia, the Orilium Adventure in Aeldia. I read Balta of the Blue Dawn by Mary Pope Osborne. I do not remember if this is illustrated by Sal Murdoka or A.G. Baker. One of them. It's illustrated by one of them. And I was honestly kind of nervous about this one because of the way it started. It kind of reminded me of the last book that I really didn't like it, that is basically like, oh, Jack and Annie made this whole awesome historical thing happen. And like, at least one of the things that did bother me in that is that we don't know today why exactly that person who Jack and Annie made queen in the book became queen. I need my glasses. But it did not end up being like that at all. Maybe she got some corrective criticism in that. It kind of felt like maybe she got corrected. Not corrective criticism. That's not... Constructive criticism. It kind of felt from the way that she wrote it that she got constructive criticism about that, and I really liked it. And I also really liked the author's note in the end. And I don't know. I thought it was really fun and cute. And I'm sad that the series is ending, but I do understand why, because you can obviously tell by this book that she is out of ideas. She is repeating ideas, and she's not even ashamed of it. Anyways, that's all for now. Hello, it is nearly Eurovision, but there is enough time to update this vlog and the Shopaholic vlog. And I finally had 104 pages left, and I finally finished Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Yay! 1,006 pages. Maybe even a little more. Let's see what page it starts from. Oh, it's actually a little less. It's 1,003 pages. It starts from page 3. But I finished this. I have to say, I was kind of disappointed by the ending. It's not that it's a bad ending by any means. If this book was 300, 400, even 500 pages, which is a little long for me personally, I would have been like, okay, 500 pages maybe not as much. But it's not that there was anything wrong with the ending. It was a good ending. But I saw it coming from, what? 300 pages away, and this book is 1,000 pages. Now, yes, this book is not about the ending, it's about the journey, and I enjoyed the journey. I cannot say I didn't enjoy this book. This is like a 4-star book. So, it's just annoying that I knew exactly what the ending was going to be from ages and ages away, and it's 1,000 pages. That's annoying. It's not that it's not a good book. That is just annoying. But it's not like I wouldn't recommend this book. I would recommend this book. If you like The Night Circus, Starless Sea, books like that are more about the journey than where you get to, I would absolutely recommend this book. I don't think it's a bad book. Like I said, 4 stars. And, what I wanted to talk about is the message from this book, which is about sharing learning and not disparaging knowledge. A lot of this book, which also reminds me of the Starless Sea and the Night Circus, and the Night Circus a lot, that's about sharing knowledge and not disparaging knowledge, and I never outright says this, but there is or maybe it kind of outright says this, but it's specifically talking about fairies, and this book is about people, even though there are fairies in this book. This book is about people, it's not about fairies, but that knowledge can be used for good, and it can be used for evil. It's not, and to take a piece of knowledge and say this is evil is wrong, and it can lead to many bad things, which is essentially what happened in this book. The person said that knowledge is evil and never said why he thought it was dangerous, and because of that, people were just like, okay, so let me use it and see what happens, and some very bad things happened because they didn't realize the dangers of it. In order to use something, you have to have the knowledge of how it can be used and how it can be used for good and bad. And yes, that does mean that evil people are going to use it sometimes. But you can but everybody's looking for knowledge all the time, including good people. I also like that Jonathan Strange in this book, and Mr. Norrell as well, they are good people. They want good for people. They are compassionate. Well, Mr. Norrell's not nearly compassionate, but he still wants good for people. He doesn't want to do bad things to people. He doesn't want bad things to happen to people, which is the main difference in this book between most people and the Fae. There are genuinely evil people in here, but they make mistakes, really, really, really big mistakes. like, that lead to people that nearly destroy people's lives. Kind of big mistakes. But yeah, basically, yeah, I think one of the main messages of this book is that knowledge is something that people are going to seek out, and you should share knowledge and talk about why you think it's dangerous, or how it can be, or the dangers that can be used if you think it's dangerous knowledge. And yeah, bad people are going to do it, but if you don't talk about this knowledge, then good people will stumble on a mistake and make the same mistakes you have or other people have before. And that's like a huge thing in this book as well, that Mr. Norrell has all this knowledge that he doesn't share, and he doesn't make, and while he makes a very big mistake, he doesn't make a lot of the mistakes that Jonathan Strange makes because he doesn't have the knowledge that Mr. Norrell has, that Mr. Norrell has already read from in the past. So yeah, I think this book has a good message, and I enjoyed it. The ending just annoyed me, which is fine. But yeah, I do recommend it if you like books about the journey. Even if you don't, like, even not specifically fantasy books. Like, I would also say that if you like fantasy and you like the book It's Not Okay by Nina LaCour, you should read this book. Hello, it is May 18th, and I am a bit sad. And this is because I finished The Train to Impossible Places. And it's not because the last 99 pages weren't good. It's because I love them. This book was so good. It's everything you want to be a middle grade fantasy book to be, and more. It was just, I cannot emphasize how good this book was. And I cannot find the continuation to the series anyways. I checked 3 different libraries plus the open library, and I just cannot find it anywhere. I don't even know how the library originally got the original copy, because it seems like maybe these are only being published in the UK. Maybe just the first one was published outside of the UK, and then it didn't have such a good reception for some reason. But that's so sad, because this book was so good. I think I've already said all the reasons it was good, and there are more reasons it was good that happened in the last 99 pages, but they would be spoilers to say why. One thing I do want to say is that it played with a lot of classic middle grade tropes, or what you're used to in classic middle grade. So usually when you get a character who's a liar in middle grade, whether it's fantasy or realistic fiction or whatever, so they will either be the bad guy, or they'll be the main character himself, who's really struggling with, who's obviously struggling with something that's making them lie. And while we did have some of that with our main character, she was mostly okay with the reason she lied. Like, she really was stuck in a situation where there's no way not to lie. However, a different character lied, and it was basically we were almost seeing the usual thing that we see of the main character admitting to their friends that they lied and trying to explain why. We were actually seeing that through Susie's eyes, which I thought was really cool, and there were all kinds of fun stuff like that. And I loved the villains. I cannot explain to you how much I loved the villains. I thought they were set up so well. I thought the plot twist was good, and what was interesting is that I just read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which talked a lot about sharing knowledge, and this was also how it's bad not to share knowledge, and this was also a really major plot point in this book. The villains were basically evil because they wanted all the knowledge to themselves in order to control the world. So they were using the knowledge. So unlike the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which just they were actually using the knowledge for evil. But it's about hoarding knowledge and it being bad. But this is not surprising in books. People want to talk about, people who write books generally want to give out knowledge. But yeah, I love it when I find these things that kind of continue from book to book. And it's also really cool because probably if I hadn't read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell right before I read The Train to Impossible Things, I wouldn't have been noticing that specific thing, or I wouldn't have noticed it as strongly. I just find it's really cool how a book that you read it's kind of obvious, but also the books that you read, hear that, anyone? The books that you read continue and influence your other interpretations of the books you read, which, like, I know we all talk about how that goes for life, and how, like, when you read a book and you're in a different place in your life, that will influence how you read it. Or even if you're not rereading it, if you're just like, if you read a book for the first time and sometimes you, like, think about, this is how, if I had read this at 13, this is how I would have thought about it then. If I had happened to come across this at age 7, this is how I would have reacted to it then. But we all don't, I think we don't, and we do think about, I've definitely talked to people who reread books about how rereading the books, what you already know about the book, influences what you feel about the book upon rereading it. But I haven't, like, really encountered talking about how the other books you read influence your reading of, or the books you read close to the other books influence your reading of the new book. Okay, anyways. After I finished The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell, I mean, it's not, like, super, super sad, it's just a book, but I am kind of sad that I wouldn't be able, I'm probably not going to be able to finish the series unless I somehow miraculously find it, but, probably not going to happen, and oh well. Yeah, but I'm disappointed. I really, really love that book, and I would love to read more by the author. But anyways, I again, ignore the books I already have out. I was in a mood to continue the middle grade fantasy. And I do have another middle grade fantasy on my TBR for this month, which is The Power of Three by Diana Wynne Jones, which is my other Buzzwordathon book. So Buzzwordathon has the word that you have to find in the title and something to find on the cover. And this one was eyes. So the main thing on this cover is, in fact, eyes. That's, like, the cover itself. And then there's actually, when I took it out from the library, I noticed that on the side that has a design which are owls, and the eyes are obviously very prominent in eyes. So this isn't what I expected. It isn't the same kind of middle grade fantasy as The Train to Impossible Places at all. It's much more serious already. Um, and it starts off kind of like a history, not in a Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell kind of way, because this is a total fantasy world, and you can tell that from very early on. There was a second one I was like, oh, is this medieval fantasy? Is this, like, alternate history, like, that happened, that there's fantasy, but it's also medieval? But no, this is totally its own thing. It's in a secondary world. Yeah. Anyways, just what was I talking about? Yes. So, but it kind of starts off, so it tells us that the book is going to be about these three kids who are the children of someone named Adara. And then and then it says, but to tell you how we get to the story of these children of Adara, we have to tell you how it all started with Adara. And they tell us an incident that happened when she was 7. And that was the first chapter. And I was a bit thrown off at the beginning. I didn't really understand what was happening, because usually, when a book says, well, this book is going to be about these three kids, it doesn't start off by telling you in the first chapter, not the prologue, the first chapter, that a story from their mother's childhood. But this book did, and after I got used to it, I very much enjoyed it. So the next chapter, though, which I have not read yet, and I'm not planning on reading today, is I've read the first sentence, and I think it's going to be something about their father. So they have the mother, they give her kind of like, it's not really an origin story because it's just an incident, but it also is kind of her origin story. Like, it explains how they became to be alone, this family. And then I guess it's gonna be the origin story of her dad, of these kids' dad. And I really like it so far. The thing is, I read Diana Wynne Jones first. I first read Time City, and I read that in English because it hasn't been translated into Hebrew, and I absolutely loved it. But Time City is science fiction. And then I got into her fantasy, the Howl books, the Howl series, and the Chrestomanci series. And I read those in Hebrew. And when I started reading Diana Wynne Jones in English, to just get to the books that haven't been translated into Hebrew, I was really thrown by her writing style. And I have to be honest, I've never really gotten used to it. I've learned to deal with it because I do love her ideas and I love her stories, but I've never really grown to love her writing style. And this one, like Time City, is written in a very different style. It's not the same style as Time City, but it is a very different style, and I'm enjoying it more than her usual style. So yay! So, it is May 21st. I didn't update you for 2 days because I was very busy, but I am 249 pages into Power of Three, and I am loving it. And I really wish I had been able to update you before because there were so many things that I was like, oh, I think this is what it is, I think this is what it is, but now I know that it is that, so it would be spoilers to say it. The only thing I will say is that we have 3 races here. We have the Dorig, the Giants, and the Lyman. And the second I saw the Giants' house, I knew something very important that is basically leading up to the end of this book. So basically, we know all this information that I've already guessed now, and we know most of the important information. Knowing that this is a Diana Wynne Jones book, and having read as many books as hers as I've done, I would guess that there are some small pieces that we don't know yet, or we know yet, but we don't realize that they're actually connected. And that they're all going to come to a head at the end, which is going to be a very messy end, especially focused on this cursed collar that there is, or cursed torque. So this is kind of a book with a message about peace and war and why people and basically it's an anti-war book, which I am in support of. I am in support of anti-war, but it is getting a little heavy-handed, but I can't blame it. Like, if it were an adult book, it would be heavy-handed. The fact that it's aimed at 10 to 12 years olds, it's not heavy-handed. Just for me as an adult, it's getting a little heavy-handed. And that's basically the only complaint. I really like our characters. I find them extremely fun characters, and I really like our story. I love the story. The story is so great. And I like the writing style, which I'm so surprised at, because I do not like Diana Wynne Jones' writing style, but I really like the writing style in this book. I love it so much. So anything more concrete that I can say? So we are following, basically, as I said, we're following 3 children, but we're actually following just one. Our main character is Gare, and then his siblings are Ayla and Kerry. So something I find interesting and I like in this book is Gare's relationship with his father, Jest, I don't know, pronouncing it Jest, okay, as an E after the G, I'm pronouncing it with a soft G. But, so I really like how, and it's really horrible, so it makes me feel kind of helpless, but, so Jest and Gare do not have a good relationship at all. And part of that is Jest's fault, in that he doesn't really, when he doesn't understand his children, he doesn't really bother to understand his children. Like, he understands one of his children, he understands his daughter, Ayla, and they get along really well, but he doesn't understand his sons, and he especially doesn't understand Gare, and because he doesn't try to understand them, he and Gare especially have a really bad relationship, and it's not like he's abusing him or neglecting him at all. It's just that because he doesn't try to understand him, Gare, doesn't feel loved, and so because he doesn't feel loved, he doesn't tell adults stuff, and just, and Gare just, puts himself into a place where he doesn't really tell anybody anything. He tells his siblings a little bit more, but not much. And he just puts himself into a place where he feels very misunderstood because he doesn't share anything with anybody, but that came out because he was feeling unloved. But that came about because he was feeling unloved because his father didn't really try to understand him. And it's this whole mess that's just sucky and bad, and it just really shows how much you as an adult, it's your job to try to understand the child. It's not the child's job to try to understand you, or even really the child's job to try to explain themselves. Okay? They're the child. You go to them, not them to you. Anyways. Yeah. So right now, the point where I've gotten to in the book, we have our Lyman representatives. Of course, they're all children. Our giant representatives and our Dorg representatives, and they're all kind of sitting and talking to each other and trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And they've gotten very close. I think I realize what they're going to do. I don't know how it's going to end up because Diana Wynne Jones's endings are always crazy, and there are still like 80 pages left in the book. And I'm sure that Ger, Ayla, and Carrie's mother will be involved at some point, very much so. But I'm just interested to see what happens, especially what will happen between, like, what will the relationship end up being between these three races, the Dorgs, the Giants, and the Lyman. Hello, it's May 22nd, and I want to update you on Power of Three because I finished it and I loved it. And oh my god, it's just one of those books that I just wish I could read it again for the first time, but also read it again, but also reread it again over and over, not for the first time, because I just loved it so much. I'm really glad that I had these past two books that I've just loved so much. I'm also rereading, not in this vlog, but I'm rereading another book that I love a lot. So I'm happy after those two severe disappointments. So, but we'll see but that's also, it's after the disappointments, I was nervous to start my next book because I was nervous that it would also disappoint me. Let's make some more light here. Yeah. Thank you. Now I'm also nervous to start a new book because by an author I don't know, because I'm nervous that it will disappoint me again. But Power of Three, I finished it. I did not have much left. Last time I updated you, I think I had like just slightly over 100 pages left, so I didn't have much left at all. And okay, I'll be honest, I don't know how to feel about the ending, but and part of that is because I know Diana Wynne Jones so well as an author, and the ending was not what I expected, which I was expecting. I was kind of expecting that the ending, not the last time I talked to you, but when I was like 40 pages away from the ending, I was expecting that the ending would be very different from Diana Wynne Jones's other endings. There were just something that, like, Diana Wynne Jones generally has these endings that everything just comes together in a great big rushy mess, and sometimes I really enjoy them, and sometimes I really don't. In this one, by the time I got to like 40 pages from the end, I realized that things were kind of happening too clearly for there to be that great big rushy mess, and so I knew it wouldn't be the same. So. But it was kind of surprising, just because I'm used to one thing and I didn't get it. So I have to try to think about how I feel about the ending without the surprise. And I think I was kind of bored. I liked the ending. I thought it was a good ending, and I thought I saw the ending fit the book very well, because the whole book is basically anti-war propaganda of we should talk about stuff before we start fighting. Obviously, that does not work with me, because some people, just want to kill, and if you talk with them, it will not matter. But basically, the idea here was we should talk with people before we start fighting, or to end the fighting in this case. And so, but I just felt like some of it was slightly boring, and the parts that were slightly boring, there was this part that was like, basically, the whole place where the lime and the giants and the Dorig live are in danger because the giants that are not from there want to fill it up with water to make a reservoir. And so basically part of the ending was figuring out how to make another reservoir for the giants that was not there and wouldn't endanger anyone. I felt that part was kind of boring. Other than that, I really liked the ending. And I mentioned before our main character Gares and his father Jess's relationship. And I really liked the ending of how that ended. Jess was finally said he was proud of Gare. And like Gare realized that his father loved him. And he also realized, and Gare has like this whole big issue with feeling ordinary. And he kind of realized like that most people feel ordinary and that it's not a bad thing to feel ordinary. You can do extraordinary things and still feel ordinary. So I really liked the ending between Gare and Jess's relationship. I don't know, I don't have much to say because I feel like I said everything in the last clip. I really liked this book. I thought the plot was good. I enjoyed the characters. I also enjoyed Hala, who is one of the kid characters from the Doric, who mostly Diana Wynne Jones's kid characters are smart. And that's also another thing, like she kind of played with tropes. So we had Brenda, who's a giant child, who is incredibly intelligent, but she's fat. She eats a lot, which at the time this book was written, and even now would be like seen as like a very negative thing. She breathes very loudly, and she's not always the most compassionate person, but we still see her in an extremely positive light. Hala, on the other hand, she's extremely pretty, but she just goes along with whatever the adults say and does not think it through. And so she serves, and she only cares about her own family. And so she basically serves as kind of propaganda mouthpiece for the Dorig, except he's talking to the linemen and the giants. And I just thought it was really interesting because her brother is not like that. So she and her brother meet these other people, and her brother's trying to end the war and not be, and she's like this propaganda mouthpiece. And Diana Wynne Jones generally does not have characters like that. I think most people don't, like, unless they make them really evil. You know, I'm thinking of the Slytherins in Harry Potter. They make them evil, right? But she's not made out to be evil. She's made out to be a bad person because she literally does not care about anyone except her own family, and she doesn't think through because of that. But yeah, but it's like there is like a kind of realization that she is still a kid who's learning, and she still has time to change because she's what, 12, 13? She definitely needs to change in the next few years, you know, but she's still learning and she has time to change. I thought that was really interesting. Anyways, I really, really like this book and I highly recommend it. Yay! It is. It is March. It is May 24th. And I have an update for you. So I have 2 books left to read for this blog. One is The Monster of Elendhaven. For my character, Estella has one less book to read for Orilium, still. And then for The Adventure in Aeldia, I also have 1 book left to read, which is a book that I asked for a recommendation for. Basically, like, I asked someone for a recommendation. So as you may remember, I tried reading Burned by, I don't remember who, which is a recommendation I asked for on the Orilium Discord, and I didn't like it, and I DNF'd it. Then I said I was going to read Orleans by Sherry L. Smith, which is a recommendation I asked for in a Goodreads group I got from a Goodreads group, but I realized I'm not going to have enough time to read that. So, because I have to read The Monster of Elendhaven because I only have 9 days left on it before it goes back to the library. So I decided to read Ta'atuim by Etty Alboim, which is a book that I asked for a recommendation from the librarian for Israeli fantasy. fantasy written by Israeli pens. And I got this recommendation. So now we're going to go pause this for a second while I go see if my soup is ready. My soup was indeed ready. Actually, it was almost burning. But anyways, back to this book. I am, as you can see, nearly halfway through. I am at page 159, chapter 14. So I am actually really, really enjoying this book. I was not sure what to expect. This isn't a book that I think I would actually have picked up if I weren't recommended it, because from the summary, it seems like very basic, same fantasy. But also, I read the summary again after I started this book and realized that it wasn't what I was expecting. I think I may have read it wrong the first time because I was reading in a hurry. I get anxious when I'm reading in front of people, which is weird because if I'm reading on my own, I can read really fast and fluently. But when I'm reading in front of people, I get anxious and I tend to read very slowly and miss a lot of stuff because I'm anxious. So I probably didn't read the summary right. But anyways. This book is about our main character, Aeldia, who lives in this secret kingdom in Antarctica. This book was published in 2014, and it happens in the modern world, so I assume it happens around 2013, 2014. And this secret kingdom is basically, it's supposed to be this place where all of the people who are not welcomed by the world can come there. So some of the people are magicians, they can do magic. Some of them are and stuff like that. And some of them are just people who are disabled. And so Aeldia was born there, she grew up there, and she works as a servant in the king's palace. Her father was once a very great magician, but now he doesn't work anymore, and she's the bread taker of the family. And that's all I'm really going to say. Okay, I'll add a little more. I haven't really got to this part yet, but we do know that she will have to leave the kingdom and go out into the world for the first time. And I haven't got to that part yet. I actually think that part might happen just at the end of this book because this is the first book in a series. But what I have read, I've really enjoyed so far. It's hard to tell the plot without spoiling it, but I'm really enjoying how the plot is going, and I'm really enjoying the characters. Now, the world building, I'm not really enjoying, or I'm only kind of enjoying it. There are parts of it that I'm really liking. I really like about the world building, and parts I really don't like. So some of the parts that I really don't like about the world building are because of the way Aelia's character presents it. This is a first-person POV book. This is a first-person perspective, and we're seeing the world from Aelia's eyes. And she grew up in this world, and she knows that it's not in this magical kingdom, and she knows that it's not the usual thing, and she kind of knows what's happening in the outside world because they have access to the internet. And her parents both came from the outside world, but she has this thing where she's talking and she'll tell us, and she'll sometimes behave, oh, this is totally normal, and she won't explain anything, which is what I like, but sometimes she'll explain it, and I'll be like, okay, whatever, it's not my favorite, but I'll give it a pass, but other times she'll behave like something is weird, and I'm like, and I don't know where the line is. I cannot tell where the line is between what magic she thinks is normal and what magic she thinks is weird. And that's one of the things I'm not enjoying of the world building. I cannot tell where her line is between magic that is normal and she's used to and magic that is abnormal and she's not used to. The other thing I don't like about the world building, which I'm not sure if I don't like about it or not. Actually, I like it, but I also don't like it. Okay, so that's really the main thing I don't like about the world building. Something I really, really, really do like about the world building, which is again because we're getting it from Aelia's perspective, is this she's grown up in this world, and all her life she's been told that this country is the best country in the world. It's the only country that really has compassion for all its citizens and will loves everyone equally and will take in everybody who are outcasts and freaks, or seen as outcasts and freaks in the rest of the world. And from the very beginning, from the first page, we get hints, not even hints, they're not subtle at all, that she knows that this isn't true. But, she's still 16. She's not even 16 yet. She's 15 when this book begins, a month before her 16th birthday. She's still a teenager, and that is exactly what teenagers do. They learn what of their world that they were taught is true and what was not. And so you get hints from the very beginning that she realizes that this isn't exactly true. And as we go on, she develops more and more of that. At the same time, she still grew up in this world. So she'll so there was this part where her friend was arrested. No. Yeah, where she was nearly arrested, and she was already in handcuffs, and she's like, oh my god, I'm never going to see my father again. I'm never going to see my friends again, because they take people straight to jail. In, what was the name of this world again? In Megilando, that's the name of the country. In Megilando, justice is swift and just. And that's why everyone thinks twice before doing something wrong. And there's generally no trials. And that's just, I love that you can see her developing her sense of what I was taught and what is actually going on. And it's not like a dystopia book where they're just where it's either I realize everything is wrong from the beginning, or I thought this was right, but now I realize everything is wrong. This is, yes, Megilando is a fake country, but it's very realistic in how it is. So I'm actually really, really enjoying the way that she is developing her understanding of the world, of the country that she lives in. And this book just reads so fast. I don't know what it is, but I started this at 4 o'clock, and I read 158 pages. That's crazy. And part of that is just really the plot. The plot written in this is just good. It's just 1, 2, 3, go, 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 go. But it's not so fast that it feels like you're breathless. It's a perfect pace. I love the pace that this plot is at. And I really like her relationship that she's developing with the two princes. So at first, she doesn't know them, but she really hates them. She thinks they're arrogant and spoiled. And then she slowly gets to know them, and she gets to know each of them. I also like that they're twins, but they each have their own personality, because that doesn't happen in books enough. I'm not even a twin. I just hate it. I hate it when they don't have that in books enough. So she gets to know them, and she's and they are arrogant and spoiled, but she also gets to know more things about their personality, and she begins to be friends with them. And I really also like that. So anyways, I'm really enjoying this book so far, and I'm honestly super surprised. Been 26, and finally yesterday I started the last book I have to read for my last character for Orilium for April. So her last class is artificery, and the course focus is clockwork mechanics. The prompt was to look at the time that you look at the prompt and read a title length of that time. So I was reading the prompt sometime past 10, and so I chose a book with 22 letters in the title, and that is The Monster of Ellenhaven by Jennifer Giesbrecht. I was really nervous about this, as you know, but also it turned out when I started reading it yesterday, I was also wrong about what it was. I said it was YA dark fantasy. It's adult horror fantasy, and the emphasis is definitely on the horror so far. There is fantasy, it's definitely fantasy, but the focus is definitely in the horror. And I am really loving this. Also yesterday I looked up on Goodreads, and its reviews are not that good. But personally, I am loving it. I'm at 52%. I'm just over 50%. I wish I had been able to update you before at 50%. This is a very short book. I'm on page 90. But I wasn't able to because, there was a lot of traffic on the bus, so I read a lot on the bus. But I am loving this book. So basically, what is this book about? It's really hard to explain. So this book takes place in the city of Elendhaven, which is a city far, far north on the North Sea. And it's a very, very polluted city. First of all, it's built in a crater that was made by magic pollution. And secondly, it's got all kinds of factories and stuff. This book is really a story about monsters. So it's called The Monster of Elendhaven, and technically our main character is this kind of creature who looks human but can't die and is a killer. But then we've got all these other monsters. We've got our kind of love interest, Florian, who's also our monster's boss. And he's also a killer because he's focused on revenge. But then we've got all of these other characters who are killers just because they don't care about anything except getting rich. So it's really just a book following these monsters, but it's really following Johann. And it's not really following a plot. It's mostly following Johann and Florian's relationship. And I am in love with this. Okay, so this book is kind of written from Johann's POV, but not exactly. It feels as if it's written by a narrator. At the same time, it feels like we're closely following Johann's POV. It's like third person close, but it also feels as if it's written by a narrator. Like, a lot of the times, usually when you read something that's third person close, it feels very neutral. Most of the other times, it feels as if it's written in the character's voice. This feels neither. It doesn't feel neutral, but doesn't feel if it's written in the character's voice. At the same time, it is very obvious that we're closely following Johann and Johann's thoughts, and very specifically not Florian. So Johann, who grew up in the streets, discovered he couldn't die, and started killing just as a way to survive, and quickly became a killer for pleasure, basically he falls in love with Florian. He stalks him, and they get into a boss-servant relationship. And Johann is so obviously in love with Florian, and it's crazy because you're reading it from Johann's perspective, basically, right? And he is so in love with Florian, and also he's amoral, so he's convinced that Florian is in love with him. Now, Florian is not in love with him. Florian is only in love with the idea of getting revenge. That's all Florian is in love with. But he manages to almost convince you that Florian is in love with him, and he manages to make their relationship, which is really just Johann stalking Florian, seem cute. This author is so good at writing. And when I say seem cute, that is not to take away how creepy and Johann's and Florian's horribleness and creepiness is still there, but still manages to make it seem cute. And that is crazy. This writer is just so good. Like, I am in love with this writing style, and I'm not usually a person who goes for writing styles. I am definitely a character person above all. But I think I've been discovering that recently, like in the past half year maybe, I used to be a character person, then a plot person, and now I'm a character person and then a writing style person. Because I am loving the characters in this, like I said. In the very beginning, that was the first thing I talked about. I do love the characters in here. And this is definitely a character-focused book, but I am in love with the writing style. It just gives you the atmosphere of this horrible, horrible town so well. And then, at 51%, the relationship between Florian and Johann changes. At 51%, there was a plot twist, which I can't spoil, obviously, but it was both in the plot, but in the plot, it wasn't exactly a twist. In the plot, it was kind of like, I don't know how to say it. The twist was there in the plot, as in, we knew there was going to be something that would change at that point in the plot. It wouldn't just be the way it had been going up until now. but it wasn't surprising. Like, we knew it was going to be there. It wasn't a twist in that it was surprising. It was a twist in that there was a change in the plot. However, there was a plot twist in Johann and Florian's relationship, and oh my god, I am going crazy for it. Remember, when I say relationship, I do not mean romantic. I just mean the relationship between two awful, awful people. Anyways, I am in love with this book. Hello. It is, I don't remember when I updated you, if it was yesterday or this morning. I'm pretty sure it was this morning. But I have now finished the last half of The Monster of Ellenhaven. And I am not sure how I feel about the ending. On one hand, I really understand how it fits into the theme of this book, in that basically everyone can be a monster, and there are many monsters in the world, and that corruption can lead to many different types of monsters. On the other hand, I wanted an ending that was more, that would please me more morally. Like, something I really did like about this book is that even though the bad guys were the main characters, I didn't like that. I didn't feel like the book wanted me to want them to win. There was a book I read a while ago now, a few years. It's called She Who Becomes the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. And I know that this is a well-liked book, and I think that it is a well-liked book for many, many good reasons. I honestly really like this book. It's incredibly well written in every way, but our main character in that book is a really bad guy, and I felt that the book wanted us to cheer that character on, and I just couldn't continue with the series because of that. In this book, I felt, for the most part, until the ending, I felt that they didn't want me to cheer the main characters on, that I was against the main characters, and then just at the very end, at the very ending, I felt like they wanted me to cheer the main characters on, and so I didn't like that. So overall, well, I really did like this book, even though some parts of it were too creepy and gross for me, to be quite honest. Some parts were too creepy and gross. But overall, I really, really enjoyed this book. Just the ending, I didn't love. It was not for me. Even though I see how it fits into the themes of the book, the ending was not for me. And now, for this vlog, I only have to finish Tatooine, which, with God's help, I will do on Shabbos on Saturday. So yay, and we're gonna take that out. Hey, hello, it is May 31st, and on the last day of the month, I finished the last book that I wanted to read this month. And I really, really, I also thought I was really going to end this vlog on a high note. And it's not a high note, it's not a super low note either. I really enjoyed the beginning of this book, even though there were definitely things, even though it wasn't the best, most well-written book, and even though there were definitely things that I knew weren't great, and I really enjoyed the end of this book too, like the last 50 pages, and also there was this tiny part in the middle that I enjoyed, but for the most part, the middle of this book is what really disappointed me. At around, between page 200 to 300, just 100 pages, and this book is like, maybe even more than 300. Let's see. Where did I start enjoying it again? Yeah, I started enjoying it around a little past page 300, maybe past 315, a little bit before page 200, I started disliking it. So like 100 to 150 pages of this I didn't like, which is a rather big chunk of the book. And the reason I didn't like it just got bogged down in a bunch of plot holes and world building holes. There were some stuff that happened in the beginning of the book that there were world building holes there, but they were small enough that I could pass over them. But that part of the book just was so large. I do think I'm going to continue to the second book in this series, but mainly because I do want to read more Israeli fantasy. If this were a book in English, I don't think I would continue to the next book, just because it disappointed me so much, the that 150 pages where there were like so many plot holes that never got resolved. Yeah? Like, the story did get back on track and became better, but those plot holes never got resolved, which is what drives me crazy. But anyways, that's everything. I finally finished. This vlog started in April. The end of April, like April 27th or something. It is now May 31st. But I finished it. And yeah, so both my characters are through the maze now.